Hi, my name's Therea, and in this video I'm going to briefly discuss 8 of the human body systems. So I'm not going to discuss all of the body systems, but I am going to discuss some of the main ones. So I'm just going to share my screen with you, so hopefully you can see that and make that a large screen. So the human body systems to be discussed include the musculoskeletal system, which is made up of both our muscles and our skeleton, the circulatory system, which includes our heart, our blood vessels, and our blood, the respiratory system, which includes the lungs, the digestive system, which includes the esophagus, the small intestine, the colon, the excretory system, which also gets referred to as the urinary system, so our bladder and our kidneys and things, the reproductive system, both male and female parts of the reproductive system will be discussed in this video, the nervous system and all the branches from the nervous system, and the endocrine system will be discussed lastly. So the first system is the musculoskeletal system. So this is made up of both the muscles and the skeleton. So the skeleton basically provides a framework for the body. It helps maintain our posture. It provides support to the body. Without the muscles attached to the skeleton, we wouldn't be able to move. So the musculoskeletal system helps with mobility. The skeleton also provides a form of protection, thinking about how the ribs protect the heart and the lungs, all our squishy organs and things. Included in the musculoskeletal system is the cartilage, which is it's a sort of flexible connective tissue. It kind of acts as a shock absorber and it helps bones to slide over one another. The muscles that are attached to the skeleton are referred to as skeletal muscles, which makes sense because they're attached to the skeleton. We've got 3 main types of muscle in the human body, the skeletal muscle, smooth muscle, and cardiac muscle. So in this case, I'm only talking about the skeletal muscle, the striped muscle, striated muscle attached to the bones. Also included in this system are ligaments, which help attach bones to bones, and tendons, which help attach muscles to bones. The next system is the circulatory system, which also gets referred to as the cardiovascular system. So this includes our heart, which acts as a muscular pump, pumping blood all around the body. Without this muscular pump, blood basically would just remain static. It would pool together and not be able to move around the system. And it moves through the system, this blood, via vessels, the main ones being arteries, veins, and capillaries. So those are our 3 main types of vessels. We've got smaller vessels, arterioles and venules, that also are part of the system. Arterioles are basically just smaller structures. They're the same structure as an artery, but they're just kind of smaller in diameter. And the same with the venules, are just smaller structures of veins. They just have a sort of smaller diameter. And then the blood itself, which includes our red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets and plasma, and everything else floats around in the blood, such as glucose and amino acids and ions and things. The respiratory system is the next system to be discussed. So this includes our mouth, our nose, basically our mouth and nose and the cilia and hair within our nose kind of filter the air and help the air to dissolve so that we can make use of it. So air will travel, we'll breathe in oxygen from the atmosphere into our lungs, and it will travel down the trachea, the windpipe, which is surrounded by rings of cartilage to stop it from closing. Otherwise it would collapse in and we wouldn't be able to breathe in that air. So the oxygen will travel down through the trachea into the bronchus and smaller structures called bronchioles, all the way down to the alveoli, which are these sort of air-filled sacs at the bottom of the bronchioles. And it's here where all the gas exchange occurs. So we breathe in oxygen from the atmosphere and we breathe out carbon dioxide, our waste product. The digestive system is the next system to be discussed. It also gets referred to as the gastrointestinal tract, and this includes everywhere from mouth to anus. So we take in food via our mouth, our oral cavity, and we break it down initially with our teeth and our tongue mechanically or physically breaking down the food, and then our salivary glands help enzymatically, so they release enzymes which help break down the food as well. And then the food will travel down the esophagus towards the stomach by peristalsis, this muscular wave-like motion of muscle movement. And then the food will be sort of churned in the stomach. The stomach contains lots of hydrochloric acid to help kill any sort of, I don't know, bacteria or anything that you might have ingested with your food, and also to activate inactive enzymes to help break down food further. So then food will travel from the stomach into the small intestine. The first part of the small intestine is your duodenum, and then the middle part is referred to as the jejunum, and the last part, the longest part of the small intestine, is the ileum, and it's here where most of the food absorption takes place. So we're basically breaking down large insoluble particles of food into soluble tiny molecules that we can absorb and use by the body. Any waste products will be made into feces within the colon area. So in the colon, there's lots of water absorption taking place, bacteria and things in there. And any waste products that we've not used by the body will be expelled as feces into the outside world when we go to the toilet. We've also got accessory organs such as the liver, the gallbladder, and the pancreas. They're all involved in digestion as well. They have other roles within the body, but they are part of the vital parts of the digestive system as well. The next system to be discussed is the urinary system or genitourinary system, and it's here basically where we filter and clean the blood. So we filter out the blood and we keep everything that's useful, and we get rid of any waste products as urine. So this system consists of the kidneys. We have two kidneys. They're sort of like these bean-shaped brown organs. If you put your hands on your waist, where your thumbs rest at the back is kind of where your kidneys sit within the body. So we have two ureters, one branching off from each kidney, where basically the blood is filtered, and then any sort of waste products is pulled in the bladder and kept as urine until we're ready to release it from the body. When we're ready to release that waste from the body, it travels through the urethra. So some people get the ureters and urethra confused. We have two ureters, one branching off from each kidney, and we have one urethra, which is where we expel the urine, the waste product. The kidneys also help regulate blood pressure, blood volume. They're involved in maintaining blood pH and things like that. And they also control the levels of electrolytes and metabolites within the system. So there's lots of more jobs that are carried out by the kidneys than we actually realise. The reproductive systems include both the male and female reproductive systems. So for the females, we've got the ovaries, the fallopian tubes, the uterus, and the vagina. These are all parts of the reproductive system. They're involved in the female menstrual cycle. And then we have the male reproductive system, which includes the vas deferens, which is the sperm duct where sperm travels, the testes where sperm are formed within the testes themselves. So they're formed by these tubules called seminiferous tubules. We've got the prostate gland, which helps release fluids to help the sperm swim, and then the penis where the sperm will travel outwards. So the reproductive system, when you hit puberty, it's obviously responsible for producing our secondary sexual characteristics. So there's hormones that are released by another system called the endocrine system, which help kind of get things into motion, and puberty results from a combination of both the reproductive system and the endocrine system hormones that are released. The nervous system is made up of lots of different subdivisions and branches. So the central nervous system is your brain and your spinal cord. So this is a control and communication system that sends signals all throughout the body in the form of nerve impulses. So nerve cells, or neurons, sometimes they're referred to, are responsible for transmitting electrical impulses all throughout the body to where they need to go. So whenever we think central nervous system, just think it's in the center of the body, it's the brain and the spinal cord. The peripheral nervous system is everything else branching off from the brain and the spinal cord. So part of the nervous system, part of the peripheral nervous system includes our autonomic nervous system. Our autonomic nervous system, I always think of it being automatic. So it includes the parasympathetic and sympathetic divisions. So it's things that we don't consciously think about. If I want to lift my arms up or down, I've consciously decided to do that. But the autonomic nervous system controls things like pupil dilation, heartbeat, heart rate, whether or not we are digesting our food, things like that. So anything that we're not consciously aware of is all controlled by our autonomic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system mostly speeds things up, but not always. It kind of slows down digestion and things, but the majority of things are sped up, and the parasympathetic nervous system sort of slows things down. It's known as the rest and digest, the parasympathetic nervous system. So yes, digestion will be stimulated, but most other things like heart rate, breathing rate and everything will slow down, whereas the sympathetic nervous system is known as your fight or flight response. So things kind of speed up if you're in danger to get you ready. But obviously you don't need to be digesting your food if you're in danger, so digestion and things would be inhibited. And the endocrine system is the last system I'm going to cover in this video. So that basically is another control and communication system, but it works differently than the nervous system. In this case, we're talking about hormones released from glands directly into the bloodstream. Rather than it being nerve cells and nerve impulses, we're talking about hormones here, traveling in the bloodstream to their target organs. So the main glands which make up the endocrine system are the hypothalamus, which releases lots of stimulating hormones to stimulate the pituitary gland to release further hormones. The thyroid gland, which is involved in releasing thyroxine, which controls our metabolism and growth. The parathyroid glands, which control calcium levels within the blood. We've got the thymus, which releases a hormone called thymosin to help produce T cells, T lymphocytes involved in our immune system. We've got the adrenal glands, which release adrenaline in our fight or flight response. The pancreas releases hormones like glucose and glucagon to help control our blood glucose levels. The ovaries in females release estrogen and progesterone. So these are two main ovarian hormones involved in like sort of regulating our menstrual cycle, and the testes in males produces the male sex hormone testosterone to help with sperm production and things. So there's lots of different glands, they're not all mentioned here, that make up the endocrine system, and they all release certain hormones that travel directly in the bloodstream to wherever they need to go to produce an effect in the body. So that was the main 8 body systems. There's other systems within the body, such as the lymphatic system and the immune system. So they work hand in hand with the cardiovascular system. But basically, I'm not going to discuss these today. So, but they are parts, I would consider the immune system and the lymphatic system part and parcel of the cardiovascular system. They're involved in protecting the body. The lymphatic system is involved in tissue drainage and things like that. The immune system obviously releases all the white blood cells. It's sort of like fights off any sort of pathogens like microbes, viruses, fungal, parasites, things like that. And the integumentary system is our skin, our hair and our nails. So that's the main body systems being discussed. I hope that was helpful. If you've got any questions, just let me know and I'll try and answer them as best as I can. I hope that was helpful.